Hello everybody, this is Taz Street with Positive Out Loud, and today, who would ever guessed, but I have Mark Flieg with me. You know, he only lives 7 minutes from me, and I've been here for, 5 years in Seattle? I've never met this awesome, positive dude. So I wanted to interview him because I have been watching him on Facebook. He's been going to a lot of the same events that I go to focus on inner development and self-development and living an awesome life. And I've noticed that he likes to smile a lot, and he likes to go up mountains and be in nature, and he loves to sing. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, and so that's why I'm here, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me. Right now we're at his home, and he has the most awesome setup. We have the lights, we have the camera, we have the tripod, and he's helping me out with my podcast, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So I think the first question I want to ask you, Mark, since I'm getting to know you here, is where are you from, and what was it like growing up where you are from?
Ooh. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, in the suburbs. Where was it like? That's a fascinating question because I'm also one of the millennium babies. Not a millennial. I'm the Xennials, or whatever you want to call them. Turn of the century is when I graduated, and so we were the last ones to get to use the old school typewriters, and also the first ones to be using the computers as 4-year-olds. So that was fascinating. So there's a lot of stuff culturally. I don't know if it's regional specific or cultural specific, but pretty normal, I guess, for the time. Childhood.
I remember those typewriters.
Yeah. You had an hour inside every day. You were allowed to watch TV or play the old Nintendo Entertainment System.
Do you remember Space Invaders?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love Space Invaders.
My grandma on my dad's side had an Atari that we would play the heck out of that, and then of course came the NES, and there was a lot of Monkey Island and Paperboy. But yeah, they left me the Atari, and so I've got what was the firefighter game? There's a lot.
Asteroids?
No, there's.
Did you play Asteroids though? I loved Asteroids.
Yeah.
Do.
And Space Invaders, yeah.
Oh my God.
But we only had an hour a day, and then they kicked our butts outside, and we got to play outside until it was dark, and when the street lights came on, you knew it was time for dinner and to get your butt home. So
did you make ramps for your bikes and that sort of thing too, like I did?
We didn't have to because we were out in the county, and when I was 6, we moved from my place. They actually built a brand new subdivision next door to our house, and my parents sold out to the subdivision, and so there's a lot of construction going on, and so we had a lot of this doesn't sound safe anymore, but
nothing sounds safe anymore.
No, that's true. There was a lot of using construction materials and the like to bounce off of and bounce back. Didn't break anything major until I was 13 when I was sledding down a hill and ran into a tree. The tree won. My dad got pretty pissed at the tree and cut it down. Thanks, Dad.
So tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up with your parents. What kind of things did you bump across, and just things that just kind of rubbed you the wrong way a little bit?
Sure. I'm the oldest of 4.
Okay.
And my dad was the middle of 8. I think he's 4th or 5th in the pecking order. At any rate, a lot of the responsibilities fell on him growing up. And that was imparted upon me. And so I was often told to grow up when I was growing up. And there's one point in time I'll never forget, and I wish I was as sarcastic and quick-witted back then as I am now. Because I was told at 7 years old to grow up, or act my age, and I just so wish I would have been able to say, well, how's a 7-year-old supposed to act? This is kind of my first time doing that. And that's kind of the thing I guess to bounce around a little bit, I try to keep in mind is, and we've had this talk, my father and I, since then, that, because things are pretty smooth now, but he's been very apologetic at times for things that happened in the past. But again, it's the same thing. oldest, I'm the first. You do the best you can with what you have. You only have to work with what you know at that time. And it's the same thing as now. Like you and I, we're just doing the best we have with what we have today.
Exactly.
If we figure out a better way to do something tomorrow, well, it doesn't mean that today was horrible. We were just acting to the best of our abilities. And
with what we knew.
With what we knew at the time. It's just, it's ignorance. And I say that with the most objective of weight to it. And it's not a judgmental thing. It's just ignorance, just a lack of knowledge. There was a lot of ignorance, and there was a lot of the old ways, I guess you could say, of handling things. So I was hit a lot, and so I grew up really angry, and I was also really overweight, which didn't help that. And there's one thing that I'm sure one day will be a book. I remember once at like 14 or 15, he was going to the store something really fast, and I was often called fat and lazy because I was overweight. And I had hit a brownie or something, like one of those little Debbie snacks, which now I look at and that stuff is disgusting. At the time, it was like kids, like, yes, food, junk food.
Twinkies were the best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And he came in, you could see he was so disgusted with me. And I don't remember if I ate the thing or if I might have taken a bite and spit the whole thing out and threw it away out of disgust. But there was a lot of that, a lot of self-deprecation and feeling like shit. And then I remember it was only made worse when I went to undergrad. It was always the big brother. So I was often rejected by ladies and told I was, like, felt really safe around me. That's always been a common denominator, that I've always been a welcoming, inviting, safe space for people.
You seem to have a very sweet soul.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But there was never anything beyond, like, being the guardian. So I just kind of accepted that. And I remember when I was 19, I had a lithography class as part of my art major requirements, and we were supposed to smile to take this print. And I showed this art teacher, and she says, well, maybe you should not smile, like, that's not the best face for you. And like, okay, so I basically got told by my art teacher I was ugly.
Oh, no.
And then I went and asked a friend of mine, I was like, hey, so on a scale of 1 to 10, this is more of like, these are not proud moments coming up. And it's funny how easily this came up. So I asked my friends, and I was like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate me? She's like, I don't want to play this game. Like, so I pestered her, and she finally said, well, I'll give you about a 4. And like, that was pretty brutal. So it's funny, in my adult years, when people started calling me handsome, I didn't believe them for a long time.
So you didn't receive it?
No,
okay.
Not until about 3 years ago, which was really sad, but also kind of awesome. As we were talking about earlier, I feel like the people who celebrate life the most and who kind of walk with their shoulders the strongest and the highest have probably gone through the most shit of anybody else, and they've been able to wade their way through the mess, realize it's not about them, and that we are not the things that happen to us. We are how we react to the things that happen to us, because we can only control ourselves and how we react to everyone around us. And it took a long time to separate the ego and the external from the internal and the heart, and listen to that voice that was just begging to be heard for years. And the cool thing about that is, what started off as this whisper because it was being ignored, and it's like your heart is patient, right? This is your internal voice. It's the only one that matters. But it's also really polite. It'll sit there and say, excuse me. No, I really have something important to say. Okay, well, I'll let you listen to all this shit up here because it's just shit.
Exactly.
No offense to anybody, but the ego is just all that. It's society, it's shit. It's the stuff around you that is just noise. Because everyone thinks they know what's best for you, or at least they want you to think that. But only you know, only this voice knows. And the more you listen to this, the louder it grows. And now it's cool because that voice just bellows like, hey, I have something important to say. And the ego says, okay, we're just going to sit here in the peanut gallery and we're going to let you do your thing. And we'll throw you suggestions from time to time, but yeah, we're just noise. It's really fascinating to watch, and that's the cool thing. Going back to how you kind of found me online is that I just let this talk all the time, and the more you listen to it, the louder that voice grows. And then it's chatty Cathy. It just wants to keep talking and talking, and you realize you're actually in tune with the universe. And when you're playing that frequency and you're listening to that rhythm that's constantly going, just churning out all this content, and the content that the universe wants to project through you, the ego kind of gets fascinated. It's like, okay, you do your thing because this is fun to watch. We'll offer you, like, and that's the one thing I offer people is that remember, the ego, the head, is not all the important information-based stuff, right? Your head's still important. Oftentimes when we say head, when it's related to the ego, it's the other voices that have created a collective opinion that is just a story because, again, you can only control yourself. And unless it comes from your heart or directly from somebody else, it's just a story. The problem is we've given so much weight to that, it takes on a life of its own. This is one of the things I don't like about texting and emails. And you often see people whose feelings are hurt or who take things the wrong way because there's no inflection in those words.
There's no body language. There's nothing there.
Nothing. Like,
right.
I mean, you can see even when we're talking. Like, I have very expressive body movements. Like, I love speaking with all the senses. And unless I know your voice, and even if I know your voice, when I see an email or text from somebody, it's interpreted. I'm still creating a story based on...
In your own head, right.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Based on what I know of you or this person and my own opinion about how, like, could totally depend on how I'm doing that day, how I receive that. Mm-hmm. And it's actually a great learning lesson for me over the last couple of years is when I read things, is try not to read into them and just distill the impertinent information and detach all emotions, which is really kind of weird because it's coming from a person. We're emotional beings.
We are emotional beings.
And yeah, I don't know.
So tell me a little bit about how you started listening to your heart. Were there certain mentors? Was there something that just like bolted you out of the thing where you were just stuck and heavy and feeling so bad about yourself and because of what was going on in your life? I mean, it was just inevitable that you didn't have the self-confidence, that you had the low self-esteem and all these things that were coming your way. What was it that brought you out of that at first?
Well, it's ebbed and flowed. I'll give you 3 specific times. I like groups of 3 because they're easy to remember. There's this guy, as an aside, by the name of Dick Butterfield, who has, forget the book, it's on that shelf over there, but he does a lot of stuff, preparing people for presentations. He's worked with a lot of people who've done TED Talks, for example, and always distill it to 3 things. After 3, we lose the capacity to remember. So anyway, I am also the Grandpa Simpson of storytelling. So there's always these tangents, but I'll come back home eventually. So the first one was, again, I was, fast forward to 21, I was 310 pounds. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened. And
well, nothing happens overnight, that's
nothing,
for sure.
Exactly, either way. And we received our pledge shirts for that season. I was in a fraternity, professional fraternity. And my fraternity brother says, I got good news and bad news for you. He said, the good news is your shirt fits, and he unfolds it, and it's a 3X. He says, the bad news, it's a fucking tent. And I looked at it and was like, what the hell? And felt really horrible. So I made a pledge with my then friend Sarah that we were going to come back from, this is, spring, April, May time period. So we were going to come back from summer break, and we were going to be Ken and Barbie and run for homecoming king and queen.
Oh, wow.
And this was coming from the big, fat, ugly guy, who everyone just, big brother, right?
Yeah, but why did you say that? Where did that come from?
It came from a place of realizing that that wasn't who I wanted to be. And so that summer, I went and
So you were just tired and fed up with that.
Yeah.
You were ready for something
different. I was
different.
tired of being tired.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all it takes, is at some point you just sit there and say, this isn't sustainable. And there were guys who were worse than me, but that wasn't about me. It was like, for myself, that wasn't something I was happy with. And so I went and worked in a furniture store that summer. I gave up chips and soda. I lost 60 pounds throwing up these armoires and couches over my shoulder. And of course, as a 21-year-old, your ego's involved, and we were having this massive clearance sale. So you had all these newlyweds and fiancés and all these ladies who were like, as a 21-year-old, your hormones are wild. Like, oh my God, they're getting a kick out of that. So of course, I was showboating even more. And then there was a particular girl at the furniture store. She was 3 or 4 years younger, maybe only 3 years younger than me. But she had a huge crush on me. She ended up breaking up with her boyfriend, but I didn't do anything with it because I was a smoker, or she was a smoker. I was never a smoker.
Good for you.
Not that I'm judging smokers or anything, but she was really attracted to me, and she was like, oh, I'm so tired of the bad boys, because she was used to dating guys who screwed her over. And here's this person who was like showing genuine affection and attraction towards me, but I didn't believe it at the time, because remember, I'm the ugly duckling still. Mm-hmm. But then I came back from the summer, and everybody's like, holy hell, what did you do? And it's one of those things when it's happening incrementally, like, you know things are changing, but you don't...
You're with yourself every day, right? You don't realize, exactly. Right. Uh-huh.
And that was the moment I let go, because not more than a few weeks later, people stopped talking about my weight, and they started making fun of my lack of hair. I was just starting to lose my hair. Mm-hmm. I mean, it had been going for a couple of years, but then it was like noticeable, kind of like Tommy Boy syndrome, where you're like, oh, shoot. That's pretty bald up there. And then I realized, oh, they're just going to pick on me because I'm an easy target. And they're just looking for something. So I ended up running for homecoming king. I won the votes but lost the election. The joke was, because this is 2003, that I knew how Al Gore felt. And that was kind of the defining moment where I just decided to start loving myself. And the fascinating thing, and I've seen this come over time and again, because my weight's always been an issue for me. I've made it an issue in my relationship with food, and so I've done the roller coaster thing since then. I mean, I'm 36 now. Wow, that went fast. So in the last 15 years, it's ebbed and flowed. I've never gotten above 250. I got all the way down to 190. Oh, and the other catalyst was right after the fraternity thing, I saw my doctor. And that was the holy shit moment. Now that I think about it,
so that's a big moment. Yeah,
it was the homecoming king declaration, but it was also my doctor told me, oh, you're never going to see your abs. But then he offered me some steroids. He's like, well, here's a few legal steroids you can take. I'm like, wait a second. Like, I made this. My big thing was like, if I can't have it naturally, I don't want it. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of an FU. Like, well, as soon as you tell me, and it's still a big motivator for me, when people tell me I can't do something, mm-hmm. I'm going to do everything in my power to show them wrong. And for myself, not for, I mean, there's a little bit of ego involved.
Let's get a little honest here, yes.
Well, I mean, so I got all the way down to 190, and then my new doctor told me I was actually underweight, and then I was kind of like, and it was like I had the 8-pack and everything. Mm-hmm. I was feeling like hot stuff. I was 25, 26.
So were you working out too?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So at that time I was swimming, and I was lifting, and I was in a run club, so I was just super thin. I was always hungry. I was not happy. Turns out that wasn't the thing that would bring me happiness. Mm-hmm. I was training a lot of heads. That was fun. It was good for my ego. Still didn't feel like the guy who deserved it. So then I moved up here and started lifting heavier. So the second one, I found this girl. I decided the person I chose preyed upon my worst fear, and then she decided to stick with me because she said I was also a really nice guy and that she would be my teacher. And there were a lot of red flags in the beginning that I kind of glazed over because, again, like, I was petrified of this one thing, and it became true.
So you were 30 at the time?
I was 30.
Okay.
And
I think this is so awesome that you're talking about this, because there's so many men out there who are afraid to talk about it, because I would imagine in the culture of being a man, that's like...
It's pretty emasculating.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty
one of those-
emasculating.
I had a lot of surprised people, and I had a lot of offers for people to, I don't know how you want to call it, deflower me, but this was the person I chose, and she decided that. The thing I found through that was that if the sexual chemistry is not there, everything else, nothing else matters. And I tried so desperately, like we ended up moving in together after 7 months. Both of our leases just kind of happened to be up at the same time, and it seemed like fate at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot of important lessons from her. It was also an incredibly abusive relationship, and at first it was physical, and then it was, which was fine because I'm a big guy, and she often would tell me, she's like, well, nobody's going to believe you because you're a big guy. And
So you think that was kind of repeating itself from when you were a child?
I didn't think about that until now.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all good.
Huh. I never thought about that.
I'm just putting that out there. I don't know if that's the case or not.
I can actually see some similarities between some of the stuff she said and my dad said, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Good job. Oh, universe.
We love these aha moments, don't we?
Things always come in groups of two. And then it became verbal and emotional, and she made me out to be the monster, classic narcissistic behavior, and then said that I needed to go to anger management and to see a therapist. I did both those things. I highly recommend that everyone everyone should take anger management courses. So first of all, I went in there, and the guy tells me at the end, he's like, "You're the most level-headed person I've ever had to walk through these doors." And then I took the follow-up course a year later because she wasn't happy with that. He also said, it was also funny, I was the only one there who wasn't court-appointed. But the reason I liked the anger management course was because they taught you how to redirect the energy, because I'm a firm believer that everything's made up of energy and that it has to go somewhere. So one of my big outlets, this is one of the reasons I work out during lunchtime, it breaks up my workday really nicely, is exercise is a great stress reliever. It's a great way to export that energy into something more meaningful, more helpful for me, as well as meditation and just being a big kid. But I took the follow-up course, and he says, you know, honestly, the wrong person's in this room, in this relationship. And he offered me a couples counselor and some other options. I couldn't get her to go in. Anyway.
It was meant for you at the time, though. So
absolutely.
That's awesome.
And like I said, I learned so much about it, and I think it's something they should teach in schools, just along with improv, which I finally started. That had been a lifelong, or not a lifelong, but it had been a long dream of mine. I finally took it last year, and I still take classes. It's almost been 2 years now. It's just a great form of communication and trust and being present in the room.
And getting in touch with your emotions.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's all about authenticity and making solid offers, and it's not just about being funny. It's about being authentic and being real, and just working with whatever you have and watching what unfolds. And there's a lot of really brilliant and beautiful moments in improv. And I was also seeing a therapist, and the first person I went and saw was a female. And after 4 sessions, she tells me, I can't see you anymore because there's now a conflict of interest. Like, I want to intervene. And she also wanted to kick my partner's ass. And so, of course, I went home and told the partner this, and she said, well, she's a woman. She's just filling your head with stupid stuff. So I went and saw a guy. He said, well, he also told me you're in a, so the first one told me I was in an abusive relationship and I should leave, and that she couldn't be my therapist any longer. Second one, a guy told me I was in an abusive relationship, but I should stay and see what happens. And he had this really awesome thing. There was a lot of, he was kind of a sexist guy. I really, again, I thought I needed the things he had to offer, even if some of them were just perspective for me to realize, like, that doesn't sound right at all. But one of the things that did gel with me, he had this 80-20 rule. So if you're happy 80% of the time, and 20% of the time things are not so good, you should stick around. And then you can go all the way, he postulated, to 60-40. I would argue 80 to 20 should be your minimum threshold. That if things are unwell a fifth of the time, that's not good. For me, it got all the way to 10-90. And I was so desperate for that 10% of the time for things to be well, I dealt with it. The last straw was she went to Europe for a month, 2 weeks before Christmas, told me 3 days before she was leaving. Didn't go with me. And her excuse was, well, you knew at the beginning of this relationship that I love to travel, which is true. But I still needed like a heads up, because then I was stuck here.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people got mad at me afterwards because I decided to stay by myself for Christmas. But I wanted to remember that. I wanted to remember that she had kind of abandoned me. And I went first I went apartment hunting. And as you know, like the housing market here is insane. Just even to rent somewhere is kind of ridiculous. And this was 3 years ago.
This is Seattle, by the way.
Yeah. And then I tried looking for a place in Capitol Hill just for a change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of ridiculous over there. And so I started looking at houses, and I was looking with a friend I didn't have a direction, and he was doing the best he could with what he had. Found out nothing. So this is pretty cool. I decided to do things myself. I had a dream that night about Grandmother Willow from Disney's Pocahontas. I love Disney, by the way. And this only further explains why. And there's that song she's singing, Que, que, noctura, you will understand. Listen with your heart, you will understand. So anyway, she's singing to me in my sleep, and I wake up and I'm like, oh shit. I sign up to Redfin.
The Disney character is singing to you in your sleep. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And it's Grandmother Willow. So the next day I go on Redfin, I create an account. First house I see is this one. And I have those 2 weeping birches in the front yard, which at the time I thought were weeping willows.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. And I was like, that's my house. And I went and talked to Chris, my buddy, and we came and saw it, put an offer in before we even had it inspected. It had been on the market and taken off twice already, so I already had 2 strikes, and I bought it as is. I was like, this is perfect. It's my own cozy little home.
Mm-hmm.
I get to play Bob Vila, because from the Midwest, I try to fix things instead of letting them break. And by the time she came back, I was already filling out paperwork, and it ended shortly thereafter. She emailed me. Anyway, there's a lot of drama involved. She emailed me and made it look like I was breaking up with her, a whole big dramatic thing. So I left that relationship, and I realized that I was okay just as I was. And the next person I was with, number 2, I guess, on my list, things were really good, and I realized it wasn't me. And everybody since then has been a reminder that it's, again, if like the sexual chemistry isn't there, and how important too. So the other crazy thing about it, and this is how like everything's made up of energy, and we attract what we project, and also we manifest things. So if we believe it from here, I always call it the Holy Trinity. So your mind, body, and spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
If one of the 3 legs doesn't work, the whole thing's going to fall over. So when I was with this person who told me that I was the worst person she'd ever been with and that nothing worked, and to the point where she actually accused me of being gay, and she was going around telling all her friends I was gay.
Mm-hmm.
And she even, she even raped me. To prove, she's like, I know that that's what you really want, even though you want. I begged and pleaded with her, and anyway, my testosterone went down to 8%. 8, like 0.8. Within 6 months of leaving that relationship, it went up to 98.
Wow.
Within 6 months, my testosterone was like, I was clinically dead in that department. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where, like, you've got the testosterone like a 73-year-old male and you're 32 years old. And then when I shot up to 98, it's like, nope, you're great. And it turns out I was, because I'd gotten out of this relationship that didn't serve me. And then...
Mm-hmm. Talking about relationships that don't serve you, they don't serve you with your body, mind, and spirit. You think it's just like the emotions, but it affects every single thing. Because you're with that person all the time. You're living with them. They're in your space. They're in your bed. You're making love to them. It's just so important to be able to have those relationships that will uplift you, inspire you, take care and support you. Because if you don't, then all these things start happening in your mind, body, and spirit. Yeah.
Can't just shut off one end of it.
No, it's very holistic.
You get the whole cake. And so, because the universe works in twos, and I thought I was fixed, and I thought I'd learned all my lessons through this one person, I attracted the same kind of person. The sex was great that time, but she was still a taker, and I was still a giver. And we'll summarize this one for sake of everybody's sake. But so two things that went wrong in that relationship when it all boils down. One, I loved her more than she loved herself. But two, I also loved her more than I loved myself. And I was trying to give her so much love. And the whole thing just didn't go well for countless reasons. But anyway, at the end of that, she said some things that attacked my core values and spun things around. Basically told me my love was toxic instead of a gift. This is in the span of a month. Like, she did an about face on her words. And because the one thing I valued about her was her words above all else, I took those to heart, and I kind of had an identity crisis. And then I was left, but because she didn't give me answers, I was left to find those for myself. And then the next day I saw this advertisement for Tony Robbins' UPW event. Mm-hmm. And I went back and forth with it all weekend long, because she broke up with me a week before Thanksgiving. They were having this Thanksgiving special.
What's the UPW? Is that
Unleash the Power Within?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's his foundational. You basically get the sample platter of all his more expensive programs. And I ended up signing up the last hour, the last day you could, because I was in my head, it's like, I don't know, this is a lot of money. And then the next day, I saw an advertisement on Facebook for Kyle's, one of Kyle's events.
Evolving All Out?
Yeah, his EOL September event, or August event. And so I said, well, I just spent $600 on this other thing. This is $100, why not? And I watched that 16-hour video 4 times in a row. At work, at home.
Which one?
The September EOL event.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Or August, whatever it was. September 2016.
4 times. That's great.
4 times in a row.
You did a lot of healing. Wow.
I did. I cried so much. I was bawling my eyes out. I was writing down notes. So I always keep these. It's over there. I always have these little notebooks on me, whether I'm hiking or drawing or sitting on the couch. And I filled up a whole notebook with all these little quips from Kyle and all these revelations about my relationship and about myself. And then I realized that I was the source of my own happiness, that somebody can bring me joy or add value to my life, but only I can be happy. Because if you give your happiness outside yourself,
we're having a little bit of technical issues, but we are back.
We're just reflecting on the now here. So the happiness thing, I realized that when you give your happiness outside yourself, you're left without. When you keep it within you, nobody can take that away. It's in here. Try to get through this. And cup is a great analogy too. I can only love somebody at the same capacity which I love myself. I can't give you this much happiness if I only have given myself this much happiness. So I have the second relationship, which I thought was way worse than the abusive rapist. She was also racist, but that's another story. Grandpa Simpson. I have her to thank for this whole path I went on, because she had me question who I was, and I had to take a hard look at who I was and then write it down, which I always recommend to anyone, because when you make your thoughts tangible, you give them a weight, and they're no longer a story bouncing up there with everything else. They're actually there on paper for you to look at and feel, and when something's tangible, it has a lot more meaning to it. And through that, I started looking at evaluating my life and what I wanted to do for myself. And so that was in 2016. So this was the third thing. And that ended up being her year of hiking. Like, she was part of a really strong hiking group, and everybody was trying to figure out, well, what's 2017 going to be? And then I thought about it. I was like, well, shit, I've always done everything for everybody else. I've always been such a giver. I'm going to give to myself. And so my intention for 2017 was going to be, this is my year of travel. And I wrote down 7 places I wanted to go. This is New Year's Eve day, 2016. 3 hours later at brunch, on a brunch date, I get a text, I get 17 texts from one of my best friends. And finally I had to excuse myself. Because something's going on. And I'm trying to be polite during this date. And so I wrap things up and I look down at the phone and he says, we're going to SD, we got your ticket. And I was like, SD. So San Diego was the first.
San Diego, I was going to say.
Yeah, it was the first place I wrote on my list of 7 places. And we ended up going to New Year's Eve in San Diego. Like, this is how fast the universe works, right? Like, that night. So he says, like, hey, can you be on a plane in an hour? Like, well, no. He said, oh, that's too bad. I said, well, wait a second, because he lives down in Portland. I was like, what time's your flight leave? Oh, it's at 7. This is 12:30. Like, okay, well, I'll drive down to meet you. And so I drove down to Portland. Like, I threw on my overnight clothes for the party we were going to. I packed a small little overnight bag, and then we were off to San Diego a few hours later, and that was the start of my year. We ended up going to see the Northern Lights. I got to see the sand dunes and the perfect Milky Way and the perfect dark in Death Valley. I went to Greece to see another best friend get married. Got to go to Tanzania and Dubai, and
wow.
I had so many wonderful trips. But the other thing on top of all that was that I was able to give so much more of myself because I was taking care of myself first. So my year of being selfish helped me be a much better person to everybody around me. Because when you're taking care of yourself first, when you're tending to your own garden, it just permeates everywhere. And then you have much more to give to everyone else because you've invested in yourself. You set down the groundwork. Because you're also, not only are you showing the universe and everyone else how you deserve to be treated, because people can only love you at the same level at which you love yourself. And so by showing everyone else how I want to be loved, I'm able to also love others that way because I've set a guideline. Like, well, this is the precedent I set for myself, so this is how I'm going to be able to love you as well. And all of a sudden I was being treated better. And the other side effect was I started losing people. It was so amazing because I lost the people who no longer serve me. Because there's so many people, when you're a giver, who
like to take.
They like to take. And then
right.
They got this easy access to this thing. All of a sudden that supply line gets cut off. They're like, oh shit, well you don't do anything for me anymore, so I'm out of here. Or they realize, like, I think people with ill intent, because I don't consider people bad, but there are people whose intentions aren't as pure as others. And this is not to say anything about them. But I think they recognize that, and they kind of get afraid of that. So and it's historically, like, as somebody who's super grounded, I've attracted a lot of high anxiety people, especially in relationships. And all of a sudden, they got really even more fidgety. Like, I just dealt with this last month. I started dating this sweetheart of a girl, really intelligent, great conversationalist, super cute, had a lot in common. Both nerds, were also super athletes, but man, her energy level is way up here. And I used to put up with that stuff. And again, there's nothing wrong with her, because she'll find someone in that same vibration, or she'll eventually come back down. But it was really funny, because when the two of us together, I remember the first date, she actually said towards the end, she's like, I gotta be honest with you, I'm really intimidated by you. And I kind of laughed. I said, why is that? She says, well, I thought I was grounded, but holy shit, you have me feeling like I'm psychotic, that I'm so like fluttery up in the air, and you're just like this zen little monk down here. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That's all on you. Like, I can only meet you where you're at. So that's what you think. And it was funny because on our second date, you could actually see it visibly. Because again, like mind, body, and spirit are all connected. You could actually see her get visibly more agitated, and it was this weird polarizing effect. Because the more high-strung she was, the more grounded I became, to the point where I was actually falling asleep during our date.
Oh wow!
And just sitting here talking like this, because she was so high-strung. And then because she saw me kind of, not retreating even, it was just like grounding myself. It had this adverse effect in here, and she's like, oh, fluttering around here like a hummingbird. It's really fascinating. So anyway, that didn't work out very well, but no hard feelings. Like, I think we should, I told her, like, hey, like, we'd be great friends. Always looking for athletic nerd friends. But those people started falling away, and same thing in the dating scene. And then you start formulating this picture of what's really, what you value and what's important to you. And so now, it's been almost 2 years since all that stuff happened. My friend circle has dramatically shrank, but these are people I consider friends. These are your ride or die people. So Jim Rohn has, what does he say? You're a reflection of the 5 people you spend the most time with. For me, I have my magnificent 7. These are the 7 people who I know the intimate details of everything going on in their lives. And then maybe you can kind of widen that circle to 15 of I get all the highlights, right? And then after that, it's not that I don't care, it's just you don't have the capacity for that.
Or the time, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing as like the things in your house. So I don't have a lot of things, but everything I do have I really value because you only have so much energy to give. And the more things you have, the less energy you spread them out. So by having fewer things but valuing them more, they actually matter. And even still, like if somebody walked in, or if I walked in my house today and somebody cleaned the whole place out, it's just stuff. It doesn't define who I am. It's just the things that I've chosen to reflect what I like to provide in this world. So for me, my house, 840 square feet, it's all built modularly. So we've had up to 24 people in here. I bet you could get up to 40. But it's all built to break down so it looks comfortable with just 2 of us in here. But you can also entertain a whole party of couple dozen people, and it fits because everything can be maneuvered in such a way that it's built to scale. And I feel like my life has reflected that as well, and my relationships, that I do a lot better in smaller circles, more intimate gatherings. I can play the showboat. You know, I play trumpet in band, and trumpets are well known for being like loving the limelight, but I also need to recover from that. I need time to just reflect and go in my cave. And that was one of the things I found in that first relationship, was that she also had a very flexible schedule. And so when she came home, or when I came home, it was just the 2 of us, and I never had quiet time to just go be myself and be like an artist and just retreat. And it really kind of wore me after a while.
You probably didn't realize it at the time, though, right?
I did pretty fast.
You did pretty fast, okay.
I begged and I pleaded, and she saw that as a sign of rejection. Because she's, and again, this is not a judgment, just an observation. She's one of those people who can't be by herself. She
needed
always
attention.
has the people around her. And just, yeah, it's the few times I've seen her by herself, she freaks out because she's not happy with who she is. Which was really fascinating for me to watch, because again, as we were talking about earlier, everybody has something to teach and something to take away. You know, we all have something to share and something that we seek from each other. Even if that's not a positive thing, even if it's a way like, oh yeah, I definitely don't want to do that. What are they doing so I can learn from their error?
So what are the things that you do now in your life to keep yourself grounded, centered, happy inside, loving yourself?
I say no a lot.
You say no a lot, okay.
Yes. I choose, so Kyle actually mentioned this in that event. He's probably done it since then, but again, I saw it 4 times. For everything you say no to, for everything you say yes to, you have to say no to something else. And so I guess it all goes back to the root of this all is I say yes to myself. That is the primary, if I had to just give you one answer, it's I say yes to myself. And by saying yes to myself, I've said no to a lot of things. Because I used to be in this position where I felt like I always had to be out. Especially because I was in that relationship where I was also expected to always be there for that person and not for everyone else. And that's not who I am. I have a big heart and I want to share it with everyone. But I also got a lot of FOMO after that relationship. And so I had three groups of days back to back to back with like one day where I physically collapsed from exhaustion, where I was out 18 to 21 nights in a row because I just wanted to be out, and I felt like there was always something. Well, in Seattle, there was always something going on, or you can always find something going on. But then I think I finally gotten to this point where I can filter out what really matters to me, and also because there's all these other things that the universe asks of me that I'd rather honor. Yeah, there's always going to be a party, there's always going to be a gathering, there's always going to be something to distract you. And it's not to say those things aren't meaningful either, but everything in moderation, including moderation. However, there's things that when you're compelled and the universe asks you to do the thing, if if you don't, somebody else is going to, or you're gonna feel that things just isn't. I don't know how to explain it, but you might know what I'm saying.
You might feel a little agitated inside,
yeah,
a little
just realize
like
you're
ants
not
in your
doing
pants.
the thing you're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you're shirking on your homework or your chores. Like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to be doing that, but I also want to be over here. It's not as fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
You're just kind of distracting yourself from the thing that you're actually meant to be doing. So I've gotten way better at tuning to the universe's frequency, about saying yes to myself, about doing things that fulfill me. Another way to put it is, and I'm actually doing a musing about this next week, I consider myself a gardener, in that I'm not only planting the seeds, but I'm tending the garden. I'm doing things that aren't just for the moment, but they're actually going to have a long-lasting impression, and they're going to grow and flourish. And they say this a lot in nutrition as well, that think of how much you're going to love yourself 3 months from now by making those decisions today to do the thing that may not be a short-term satisfaction, but it's a long-term. Like, hey, you can have that dessert right now, but all those desserts are going to add up, and it's really not the thing you want growing in your garden.
Well, I think the main thing that viewers out there are probably have questions about is, yeah, they want that dessert because they want to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So what things have you done for yourself to help you feel better inside?
Got it.
So where you don't want that dessert anymore? I mean, yeah, there's times where we still want dessert. I mean, we're all human, right?
Well, and you should definitely, you shouldn't deprive yourself of those things either. I'm not saying completely eliminate them.
You just don't want to go overboard with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Because again, like this life is meant to be enjoyed, and if you feel like you're constantly starving yourself, you're going to fall off the wagon. You're going to have a lot more than you should. The things that bring me joy is just creating and collaborating, connecting with others. So again, I love intimate gatherings. I love one-on-ones. So thank you, as an aside, for having this, because you just reached out to me like 5 or 6 days ago.
Here we are.
And I never really talked to you before then. It's like, all right, let's do this thing. It seems light. I meditate. I write.
How often do you meditate?
Every day.
Every day, awesome.
I don't do passive, and this is one thing I'll offer you if you say, well, meditation's not my thing, I've tried it, it doesn't work for me. You're thinking of sitting meditation. It doesn't work for me either, so don't worry. I actively meditate. So I work in video games. I'm a visual effects artist, so I do explosions and gunfire and magic and all that crazy stuff. And I get my best ideas walking the 8 blocks from my studio to the gym. At 1 o'clock every day I have this lifting class, and you're just on autopilot because it's muscle memory. You know how to get there. I mean, obviously you're watching for traffic and everything, but beyond that, I just let go. And when I'm in the gym, all I focus on is my workout. It's pretty consistent. It's up on the board. I don't have to think. And so my mind's empty. I'm just present. And then all this stuff floods through. Same thing when I'm working out in my yard. I'm gardening. I know the task at hand. It's just a matter of time investment, of just doing the thing. And so I'm able to let go. So
you do more active meditation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And by doing that, I worked on my yard 150 hours this year between April and early July, when we had those really bad rainstorms. God, give us more rain. This is a satellite asking for rain because it's smoky outside right now. It's not the 7th sign of the apocalypse. Well, maybe the smoke is, but who knows. Anyway, 150 hours of just working in the yard and just letting go. And those hours were mostly spent thinking about nothing at all. And again, I always have either a notepad on me or I've got a little handy recorder. And there were so many times where I'd have a conversation with myself or I'd be singing a song. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Let's record that for later and just keep going on. And that's how I prefer to meditate. Beyond that, I just like to play. So I hike every weekend. I love meeting up with people wherever they're at. So Katie McGee, I'm looking at you. So last year, for example, my friend Rebecca, she wanted to do a photo shoot for her daughter, and she lived in Vegas at the time. I flew out at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I was there for 14 hours and I flew back here. That stuff like really brings me joy because it's this fun story, right? I'm a storyteller. Like I love telling stories. Goes back to the improv thing. I love doing improv and having those. And I also started acro yoga last year. And the reason I cut myself off there because I started acro at the same time as I did improv, and they have this beautiful symmetry in that they both have three things in common. It's all about trust, communication, and making strong offers to each other. And just working with and playing with whatever's there. So whatever offer you make to somebody, just take it. There's no right or wrong. You just play with what you're given. You're present in the room, and you're communicating with one another. You're trusting one another that you're there to support each other and just to have fun. And all these things together, I don't know, like it's fascinating to me too because I like to dabble in a lot of things. And the thing I found in all my sports and activities is that you have a lot of people who are very passionate in one thing and they're like diehards and they own it.
Yeah.
And that there's no right or wrong, right? Whichever camp you fall in. For me, I love to dabble because there's so much out there. Same thing with the traveling. Like, I almost bought a place in Belize a few years ago.
Belize is wonderful. I've been there. Yes.
That's why I was like, oh my God, I want to keep coming back. And I realized, wait a second, there's a lot of world out there. And this is going to lock me into this one spot.
Yeah, you want the freedom, right?
Absolutely. That was the funny thing when people saw me, when I bought my house, everyone's like, oh my God, you're settling down. Like, no, I'm not. If anything, this gives me more freedom because now I have a place, I have a home base. Like home isn't here. This is now home because I've infused my love and my energy and my soul into this, and I've morphed it into something that fits me, and we have this agreement with each other, these four walls in myself. Like I've shown all this love and care, and in turn it has this really good energy, I feel, and people have often commented, but it's just a thing. Like home is out there. But
the home has all of our energy in it. What we bring into it, it's here. And when I walked into these doors, I felt really calm and peaceful. So I know that you're doing something inside. You're doing something right to get yourself to that point where, you know, you're just being you and you're loving you. And I think by loving ourselves deeply, unconditionally, through it all, and realizing when it's time to get out of the relationship, or realizing when it's time to take that trip, or when it's time just to be at home, or whatever it is, really listening to your heart. And that's loving ourselves, being there for ourselves.
Fully and authentically. And it's those roots, you're right. Because everything we touch it ends up having part of us with it, because it's that energy again, like especially when it's just pouring out of you. And that's the cool thing, going back to like how my friend circle has shrank in quantity, but the quality, man, things are just bursting at the seams. Like there's so many of these meaningful connections, present company included. Like, how cool is it that we just get to play and we're just doing this, and we have no idea who's going to receive this, but we know that the
right person, right people will, yeah.
Whoever it's meant for, it's going to be out there. So we were talking earlier about Michelle Frink. So Michelle lost her son last Sunday, and I never met the man, but I read it online, and I was because she posted on Facebook and the day's events. She was concerned about him in the morning, and then a few hours later she just posted he's gone. And I had a morning melody, this weekly karaoke thing I do, all in mind and everything. I was going to dedicate to her because she had made me this little pin that she presented to me at the last UL event in June, and I never mentioned her. It's like, oh, I'm gonna say something about Michelle this week, and then that happened. It's like, oh shit, like, this is for her this week, but a totally different reason. And Hallelujah just came into my mind, that song, Tearjerker, and I was just bawling. It's like to the point where my friend Rebecca even she saw the video a couple days later, and she's like, she messaged me. She says, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" I was like, "I'm fine." It wasn't me. It wasn't meant for me. I just had to deliver this, and that's the thing I found is that the more you hone in on the quality, And the more you foster those meaningful relationships, the ones that bring you joy and add value to your life, the more all these beautiful synchronicities start popping up. Like, I don't really believe in coincidence. I believe that everybody ebbs and flows into our life at a time when we need them the most. And again, going back to we all have something to take and something to teach. It doesn't matter if they're there for a footnote or for a few chapters. Hell, maybe they share the title of your book with you. They're all beautiful. There's a reason why they're there. Like, I believe that everybody in this world they just need two things. One, they need to have a purpose. Without a purpose, you have no reason to be. And you see this a lot in artists, right? Charles Schultz is a great example. Day after he retires, the guy passes away. And if you've never seen his documentary, I highly recommend it. It's a tearjerker. He had this one quip I remember specifically about the football. He says, because Charlie Brown was a reflection of himself, and he started crying. He's like, he never got to kick the football. That was Charles Schultz saying he never felt like he was good enough as an artist, that he just didn't feel like he had given his best. Which was really sad, and it was really touching, actually, after he passed away, how many artists, in response, had actually drawn him kicking the football and finally showing him, like, actually, you're the reason why we got into what we're doing.
He inspired so many people, right?
Absolutely. And that just goes to show you, the same as Robin Williams, right? Like, the people who are so loving and touching are usually the ones who need that love themselves. And Robin's a perfect example of somebody who just gave and gave and gave to everyone but himself. And
so, be selfish.
Be selfish.
That's the reason why we're doing this video, I think, is because that whole theme around all of this is to be selfish, and to be selfish in a good, loving way.
Yeah, they're selfish and they're self-centered.
Right.
Self-centered, it's the same thing with assertive versus aggressive drivers. So assertive drivers take advantage of the situation. I am definitely an assertive driver, especially from the Midwest. And then aggressive drivers take advantage of other drivers. So don't be self-centered. Don't take from everyone else for your own benefit without giving back anything in return, but totally be selfish and give to yourself so that you may better give to others. Because I always, I have this thing I call the platinum rule. So the golden rule, treat everyone the same as you'd like to be treated, which is totally important. But the platinum rule goes one step further and says, try to leave everyone and everything in a better state in which you found them. And by doing so, by giving your gifts freely, you're always going to receive, like, you can't give enough. You're always going to keep receiving. And you're like, no, like, I want to give to everybody else. And the universe says, yeah, and because you're giving, like, I'm going to give you more stuff to give away, because this is the mode you're in. It's the same thing when you're working out. And it always seems counterintuitive to people, because, hell, even my friend Cheryl was saying a few hours ago, I don't understand, like, you have just, like, this endless energy. So, well, it's because I'm working out, and your body will be in whatever state you put it in. So if you're in a state of rest and you're a sloth, then your body's like, okay, well, we're just going to be a sloth, and we're going to be hard to move. If you're just constantly moving, your body's like, okay, cool, we're doing this. Like, we're just going to want to keep moving. And that's why, like, this week was hell when I was stuck indoors. Like, how can I move? What can I do? So I started working on my Halloween costume. Have to constantly be doing something. And that's not to say I can't, like, I love and I value being still too, but my body is made to move. And the same thing, when you're constantly giving your gifts, the universe is just going to keep giving you more gifts to give, because that's the mode you're in. You're like, okay, we're doing this. This they're tuned into that frequency. They're just rocking out to the song blaring. Because they're listening, I'm just going to keep playing that music, and they're just going to keep receiving these gifts, and they're just going to keep going. When you stop giving your gifts freely, when you have that creative constipation, as Kyle or somebody said, I think it was Kyle, when you have that creative constipation and it all backs up, you're going to stop receiving stuff, or you're going to, like, feel like shit because you have to get rid of it all. So keep giving, but give to yourself first. It's not selfish. It's something really important for parents too. And that's something that I still struggle to deliver that message to people sometimes, and that's okay, because I don't have control over that, how they receive it. But often the excuse is, yeah, but you don't understand because you're not a parent. Like, well, it's still the same relationship, regardless of whether I'm a parent or not. Like, if I was a parent, I'd still want to take care of myself first, because then I can only better take care of my child. I mean, I still have my own mom, and God bless her, she had 4 kids she was taking care of when my dad was working. And you could see her ran her ragged sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I wish, because now like they're empty nesters, and she was, for a while, they're struggling with her identity. She's like, well, I want to have my own thing again. But she'd spent so much of her life just taking care of us, and instead of taking care of herself, I was like, I wish she had taken care of herself along the way, mm-hmm. and not been so overprotective about us, and not done as much for us, or done for us after she'd done for herself. And again, that's something I really can't relate to because I wasn't the parent. Mm-hmm. So,
and to do that inner self-healing work to get to that point, because otherwise you're just kind of running around, not really real. You're having all these emotions come up, and you're taking it out on this person or yourself or whatever it may be, and there's really no groundedness there because there's so much drama and trauma and everything inside your body that you just haven't really dealt with and looked at yet. So that is another form of self-love, of course. And that's the hard work. That's the hard work. But it's definitely necessary, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody said this stuff is going to be easy. Like it's not easy to ever start from a place of discomfort. But the more you take that initiative, the more you take that leap, mm-hmm. the more you start listening to that voice, as we talked about at the very beginning of all of this, the easier it is. Like, I would have never believed I would have been able to talk about either one of those relationships on film before. And
well, there's a lot of people out there who are dealing with that right now, I would imagine. And hopefully you see this and you realize there is a way out. You don't have to stay in those relationships. You definitely don't have to stay there. And you just want to get out.
There's only one relationship that actually matters, and that's the one you have with this person.
Yeah.
Because again, like you show the world how you wish to be treated, how you deserve to be treated. Mm-hmm. And you're going to attract people that align with how you treat yourself. So if you think you're less than, the universe is going to say, okay, well, I'm going to give you people who match that, what you're projecting out there. If you sit there and say, well, hell with that, like, I'm a god. I deserve to be with a goddess, somebody who values themselves, because you're also going to attract somebody who feels less than. Or you're going to attract a taker who is going to see that and take advantage of that situation. Either way, it doesn't serve you.
No.
So serve yourself first and foremost. Love yourself, please, for the love of God. But yeah, I totally understand that like, that's not mine to keep inside here, and it also doesn't define me. Like, these are things that happen to me, they are not me.
And so to end this on a good note, and it's all been great and wonderful, what is something like this huge breakthrough that you learned in your life that you just want to share with others? What is that one thing that you want to put out there to everybody so that they can take away and learn? The one thing.
I think we just covered it. It's just love yourself for who you are and realize that without grandstanding or anything, like, don't be a narcissist about it, but you are the most important person in your life, and you matter. That was the other thing. Everyone needs a purpose, and everyone needs to know that they matter. Mm-hmm. You matter. I matter. You matter. Yes, you do. There's this beautiful...
We've all been put here for a reason.
Absolutely. Because again, you have something to teach me as much as I have something to teach you. Mm-hmm. I have something to take from you just as much as you have something to take from me. There's this beautiful video of Jim Henson's memorial service. And there's this song. Have you seen this? I encourage you to go watch this later. And you. There's this song about believing, because I can't love you if you don't love yourself. So love yourself first and foremost. However, I can believe in you whether or not you believe in yourself. I believe in you. I do. I may not even know you, but I believe in you. And the song, it says, oh, if just one person believes in you, strong enough and tough enough believes in you, are tough enough and long enough, da-da-ba-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then it goes to like 2 people believe in you, and then it brings in 3, and if just 3 people, and if just 1 person, or just 2 people, why not? Hold on. If just 3 people, why not 4? And if just 4 people, why not more and more? And as they're singing this, all these Muppets and their puppeteers come out, and man, just goosebumps and tears. And the whole point of it is like,
I love the Muppets.
Totally. Is that you can believe in somebody even if they don't believe in yourself, and if they see that through your eyes, then they'll start believing in themselves. So if you see somebody who's really hurting out there, just be there for them. Show them. Tell them they matter. Show them they matter, that they have a purpose, that they're beautiful. We're all just in transition. Like, I don't have everything figured out. I don't want them to know.
We're all
the
learning
answers.
as we go.
Yeah. How boring would it be if life was perfect? You would have nowhere to grow, and if you're not growing, you're dying. I enjoy the unknown, and I enjoy just being presently. That's one of the things that I think I struggle with, but that I enjoy, because people will ask me, aren't you excited for that party on Saturday? Like, not really. Like, I love Tuesdays, because I'm right here. Like, that would be the biggest takeaway. Be present. Just be here. Love right now. Because all you have is this moment. Everything is past, you can't change that. Everything in the future is just a story. It hasn't happened yet. But the things you're doing now, when you're planting your seeds, when you're gardening right now, are going to lead to a better future. So believe in yourself, invest in yourself, water that garden, make sure you're getting all your sun.
And enjoy where you are in the moment, because you thinking about what you're going to do next, how it's going to be so much fun, much more fun than going on that vacation, and you can't wait till your day is done at work. What kind of life is that? It's no fun. Just be in the moment, enjoy each person that you come in contact with, enjoy yourself, enjoy what you're doing, and be perfectly present in the moment. And we all are not perfect at that. We're all learning and growing, but the more that you can do that each and every moment and each and every day, the happier you're going to be. Thank you.
I love that.
You're awesome.
Here.
Awesome.
It's been fun.
Thanks, guys.